Hey y'all! Today we're looking at Paul Simon's Graceland. It's one of my favorite songs from maybe my all-time favorite album, but I've never learned how to play it, mostly because this chorus riff threw me for a loop, so that's what we're going to look at today. There are a few different interlocking guitar parts that are layered in, and we are going to look at each of them in turn. We are using Logic. I have the recording broken down into stems. There's separate tracks for each instrument, which allows us to mute things we don't want to hear. For example, right now I have both of these vocal tracks muted, and it allows us to solo things that we want to hear in isolation. For instance, these two guitar parts. And then, of course, once we've learned the part that we're trying to figure out, we can invert that, and instead of soloing these things, we can mute just the parts that we've learned and play along with the rest of the band like guitar yoki. Now with this particular song, there's a little bit of variance in the tempo, but what we've done is we have bent the grid, the ruler, so that it matches the audio. We didn't warp the audio so that it fits into a perfectly consistent ruler. We changed the ruler, the grid, we've bent it so that it matches the audio, and this is really handy because it doesn't alter what we're hearing, but it allows us to loop sections. Let's take a look at that. We could take anywhere in here, we can just drag this, and we can hear one section. We can hear that section over and over and over again, and we can use Varispeed right up here to slow that down and hear it. So that we can hear what's happening, we can absorb the nuances of it, we can figure out where that's being played on the guitar neck, and we can practice it without having to keep up with the quickness of the original recording. The other thing I did is I wrote a full chart for the song, and even if you don't read standard notation, charts are incredibly useful. One of the things that tab is particularly bad at conveying is the form of a song. Is this the verse? Is this the chorus? Is this verse different than the next verse? Does it have a different number of measures in it? And we see that some in this song right here. So I wrote a chart, and I wrote the chart so that there's a one-to-one mirroring. So when you see the chart right here, and you see measure 30 is the first measure of the first chorus, and then you open up the DAW file and you see, yeah, right here, measure 30 is the first measure of the first chorus. Everything that you see here is mirrored perfectly one-to-one inside of the chart. If you're not a Mac, if you don't have Logic, it's okay. I also made this same exact thing inside of PreSonus Studio One, and you can grab PreSonus Studio One Prime for free, and it's an excellent DAW, and you can run that on either platform. Now the chart is great for conveying the form, for understanding what the chords are, and I've written out the riffs here in standard notation, but I realize most guitar players don't read standard notation, and so I've also tabbed this for you here inside of SoundSlice. I love SoundSlice because it allows us to do some really hip things like synchronize the audio with the tablature that is on screen, and I've taken this little guitar riff and I've mixed it down in isolation. So it's just these two guitar parts. One is mixed, the top one is mixed over to the left, the bottom one is mixed over to the right. And everything that you hear, you can see on screen, and they move together in lockstep, and you can slow that down and you can loop subsections of that. And that makes practicing this a lot easier. Okay, so this lick actually starts before what's notated here in SoundSlice. And you can see what I'm talking about here. Here's the audio of that lick. It starts here before measure 30. If you were looking at this chart, you can see there are some notes written down here in measure 29 that set this thing up. And the reason I didn't write that out there inside of SoundSlice is that it's this lick right here that leads up to it. It's at the end of this phrase. It's what we would call like a pickup measure if it was at the beginning of a song. It's just the pickups to the chorus here, and it's this. And all of this stuff that you're going to play right now is all sort of built around this E chord right here. It's the C-shaped E chord. And then you play, all again, built around that E chord. When you get into this third measure of the chorus, I wrote this in here because he plays it, you can hear it real clearly. It's kind of a pain in the ass to play though, and it doesn't make or break the song in any way, so if it's throwing you off, just leave it out. It doesn't really matter. And then when we get into this fourth measure, we have these triplets, which is when we're cramming 3/8 notes into a space normally reserved for 2/8 notes. So if it's the beat that's right here, we have this takida, 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 takida. And we play this. You could also play this here. It's the exact same notes. I like to do this and unmute the notes as I go so that I'm getting that sort of staccato where it's not ringing into one another. And I'm playing that with hybrid picking. That's just me though. You do it your way. That's what it sounds like to me. It's not really important. You could play it and it would sound fine. Altogether, that part is... Okay? The other part is actually easier, and what we're doing here with E guitar 3 is we're walking down sort of the harmonized E major scale. That's a very theory-esque way to say it. You could also just say, here it's part of this E chord, and we're going to this part of this E chord here, and along the way we're passing through these two notes, which are some stuff that sounds cooler if we want to really get into it and be like, well, we're kind of teasing the F sharp minor, but like, it's really easy to get into the weeds with music theory and distract yourself from. Our goal here is to make cool sounds, and the musicians who played on this heard a cool sound in their mind, and then they went and they found it. And theory is just a way to convey those things to other musicians, and it's a way to explain things to yourself so that you have an idea of where to go find these things, and it gives you a way to create new ideas. Don't get overly bogged down in the music theory of it, and just play really easy right here. And then that happens again, and it's a second guitar player that comes in and goes. But you could play both those parts at the same time. It's really not that hard. And if you really wanted to, you could play all the parts all at once. You could play, because that part that's right here is also built into what this guitar player is playing. Pretty cool. A lot of guitar stuff going on, and now we can sort of tease those things apart and we can recombine them once we've learned them separately. And we can cover a lot of ground. Everything else that you need to know is in the chart. There's a lot of strumming, and it says E and A and F sharp minor and C sharp minor, B. You can use little versions of these chords. This is E, and this is A, and this is C sharp minor, and this is B, or this is B. It doesn't really matter. These are little 3-note voicings that you probably already have under your fingers or could find by using those cage-shaped bar chords. The only other thing that's in here that we didn't cover is there's another guitar player that goes. Or something like that. If you listen to it, it'll be pretty obvious, and it'll be based around the exact same chords that are right here. And I think these are exactly the kind of challenges that you should be using your ear to solve. If you go through and you look at the tab for every single thing that you want to play on guitar, you're really letting your ear atrophy. And I'm kind of anti that. I want to give you the tools that you need to be able to figure things out and not feel overwhelmed, but also I don't want to do everything for you. Not because I'm lazy, but because it wrecks things for you. And when you have the DAW right here, you can take a section like that. You can mute everything except for the part you're trying to learn. You can loop it, you can slow it down, you can hear it over and over and over again. And it really allows you to train your ear on actual songs that you want to play so that your ear gets better. And that's helpful not only in being able to hear other songs on the radio, how old am I? Not only is that helpful to hear songs that you want to learn and figure out what's being played so that you can play them, it's also training your mind and your hands to be as one so that when you have an idea of your own, you are able to figure out where to find it on the guitar. That when you're playing with a band and you're playing a lick that you always play, but it seems like, wait, this might not land with the chord they're about to play, you could play a different note. You can know where to go with that. So that's what we're doing here. Training your ears and your hands to work together as one But also, I'm giving you the tools and I'm giving you some pointers on, oh yeah, this part was hard. Oh yeah, I've loved this song for 20 some odd years, but I've never learned to play it because this part's freaking hard. I better show you guys how to play that. That's all we're doing here. I hope this is helpful for you. You can find the link for the tab, you can find the chart, you can find all of these things in the description. You can grab those things. Have fun.